Welcome back, Coinology. In the world of coin collecting, there are certain coins that rise above the ordinary, coins that appear so common at first glance yet carry stories, values, mysteries, and sometimes unimaginable worth far beyond what anyone could imagine when they were struck at the United States Mint. And one such coin that has fascinated collectors, historians, and investors is the 1991 1-cent coin, a penny that most people would casually toss into a jar or leave forgotten in a drawer, but which in certain rare cases can hold staggering value, with reports and market discussions placing extraordinary versions of this coin at a value climbing as high as $340 million, making it one of the most intriguing and potentially valuable small denomination coins ever associated with American numismatic history. And to understand why a simple penny could ever reach such astronomical figures, we must explore its weight, its metal composition, the design that graces its surfaces, the symbolism that was chosen by artists and approved by officials, the history that led to its production in 1991, and the way that collectors today perceive, evaluate, and sometimes even fight over extraordinary specimens of this small copper-plated zinc coin that has been in circulation for decades but continues to command awe. When we look at the 1991 1-cent coin, we are dealing with a continuation of the Lincoln cent series, a design that had already been in use since 1909, honoring Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, whose legacy as the preserver of the Union and the liberator of the enslaved has cemented his image as an icon of American ideals. And it was in 1909, the centennial year of Lincoln's birth, that the Mint decided to feature his portrait on the cent, breaking with the previous tradition of not placing actual historical figures on circulating coinage, and that bold decision gave birth to a coin series that has endured longer than any other design in American coinage history, with numerous changes in reverse imagery, metal composition, and subtle stylistic refinements along the way, but with Lincoln's portrait by Victor David Brenner remaining as the constant face of the coin. And in 1991 this design was still in use, still trusted, still produced in the billions, yet certain variations and unique features in this year's mintage have transformed some specimens into rarities worth beyond imagination. The weight of the 1991 penny is 2.5 grams, a detail that traces back to a major shift in composition that occurred in 1982, when the U.S. Mint moved away from the heavier bronze composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc that had given the penny its traditional heft and color, and adopted instead a primarily zinc core of 97.5% zinc with only a thin copper plating making up the remaining 2.5%, thus reducing both the cost of production and the overall weight of the coin from 3.11 grams down to 2.5 grams, and the 1991 cent conforms to this standard, though as always in numismatics, transitional errors and planchet mix-ups sometimes result in extraordinary anomalies, such as a 1991 cent being struck on an old copper planchet or foreign planchet, and when these errors survive the minting process and enter circulation or collector hands, their values skyrocket, often reaching millions in auction houses when well documented and authenticated, which begins to explain how a coin with such a tiny face value can never be spoken of in terms of hundreds of millions of dollars, because rarity, condition, and demand in numismatics create worlds of value far removed from ordinary commerce. The symbol of the coin is deeply tied to Abraham Lincoln himself, as his profile portrait dominates the obverse side, facing to the right, with the word Liberty inscribed on the left side and the date, in this case 1991, appearing on the right, often accompanied by a mint mark beneath the date to indicate where the coin was struck, with the Philadelphia Mint producing coins without a mint mark, the Denver Mint using the D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint producing proof versions bearing the S mint mark, each carrying its own story, rarity, and desirability among collectors. And the reverse of the coin in 1991 still featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design first introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, replacing the earlier wheat stalk reverse. And this memorial design by Frank Gasparo includes the tiny seated statue of Lincoln visible within the memorial if viewed with magnification, a detail that ties the coin even more strongly to its central figure. And surrounding this image are the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent, tying together ideals of unity, national identity, and value. The history of the 1991 penny is not just a simple continuation but also part of a larger narrative about American coinage at the time, as the mint was producing billions of coins per year to satisfy commerce needs, yet proof and mint sets were being produced for collectors, and in these sets sometimes extraordinary levels of quality can be found, with deeply mirrored proof coins, sharply struck details, and virtually flawless surfaces that can be graded by professional services at the highest levels such as PR70, MS70, or near-perfect conditions. And it is coins in these grades that sometimes carry astonishing market values, because collectors strive for perfection and are willing to pay unimaginable sums to secure what is considered the best possible example of a given date. And the 1991 penny in perfect condition or in error varieties has been known to shock the collecting community with auction records that climb beyond ordinary expectations. Now, when we speak about the market value of $340 million for a coin like this, it is not simply about the ordinary 1991 penny you might find in your change, because that remains essentially worth 1 cent. but about extremely rare versions, unique errors, one-of-a-kind minting anomalies, or coins that have achieved legendary status due to their provenance, condition, or discovery story, and in the numismatic world it is precisely these unique specimens that can command vast fortunes, because wealthy collectors, museums, and institutions compete fiercely to own a piece of history, and just as paintings by great masters like Da Vinci or Van Gogh can reach hundreds of millions of dollars in value, so too can the rarest coins achieve this level, because they represent a blend of artistry, rarity, history, and tangible connection to the nation's story, and the 1991 penny is no exception when such extraordinary versions are discussed. Collectors who chase after 1991 pennies today are often looking for certain die varieties, mint errors, double strikes, off-center strikes, wrong planchet strikes, or exceptionally high-grade mint state coins that have survived 3 decades without blemishes, scratches, or wear, and grading services such as PCGS and NGC become crucial in verifying the authenticity and quality of these coins, assigning them grades on the Sheldon scale, and providing encapsulation to preserve them for future generations, and in auctions, it is often these certified coins that achieve record-breaking prices, as the confidence in their condition and authenticity encourages wealthy bidders to compete without hesitation, sometimes driving prices into the stratosphere and creating stories that echo throughout the coin collecting world. To truly appreciate the worth of the 1991 penny, we must place it into the broader history of U.S. coinage, which has seen countless changes, experiments, controversies, and cultural shifts, and the penny has always been at the heart of everyday commerce, carried by millions, spent countless times, yet simultaneously preserved by collectors who recognize that even the smallest coin can carry the greatest stories, and Abraham Lincoln's image ties this coin not only to numismatics but to American identity itself, making every cent a reminder of sacrifice, leadership, and ideals of unity. And when a single example of a coin becomes the focus of attention, carrying stories of minting errors, perfect preservation, or legendary auctions, its value transcends the ordinary and becomes something akin to treasure. And the market reflects this by attaching values as high as $340 million to these seemingly humble coins, elevating them into the realm of myth. This is only the beginning of the deep exploration into the 1991 penny, its secrets, its variations, its role in numismatics, and the extraordinary journey from a face value of 1 cent to market values beyond imagination. And as we continue deeper, we uncover even more layers about this tiny piece of metal that connects ordinary lives to extraordinary wealth and history. The journey of the 1991 1-cent coin continues, and when we dive deeper into its history, its rarity, its physical attributes, and its presence in the modern coin market, we begin to realize that this tiny coin represents something much larger than its small size suggests, because each penny minted in 1991 carries with it the story of American minting practices in the late 20th century, the persistence of the Lincoln cent design, and the way collectors and investors have come to view coins not only as currency but as artifacts and treasures. The 1991 penny is not just about copper plating over zinc, it is about human stories, about discovery, about rarity, about auctions where bidding wars drive values into the stratosphere, and about that magical transformation when an ordinary cent becomes worth hundreds of millions of dollars in a marketplace fueled by passion, wealth, and history. When you hold a 1991 penny in your hand, the first impression is its familiar design, a comfortingly ordinary object that almost every American has handled at some point. The obverse with Lincoln's face reminds us of his enduring presence in American consciousness, and the inscriptions "Liberty" and "I in God We Trust" frame him in ideals that have shaped the nation. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, a monumental piece of architecture in Washington, D.C., and through careful attention you can actually see a miniature seated statue of Lincoln within the memorial center, connecting the coin's two sides in a subtle but powerful way. This was intentional artistry, meant to reinforce Lincoln's enduring legacy, and it made the Lincoln Memorial reverse one of the most beloved and iconic in American coinage until it was replaced in 2009 with the shield design. But for 1991, the memorial reverse was still the standard, and it remains the image that collectors and historians identify with that year. The weight of 2.5 grams is not just a technical specification, it is the result of years of experimentation and economic necessity. The U.S. Mint in the early 1980s was facing the reality that copper prices had soared to the point where the metal content of the penny was becoming more valuable than the coin's face value, which meant the government was effectively losing money with every penny struck. In 1982, after much deliberation, the mint shifted to a predominantly zinc composition with a thin copper plating to maintain the traditional appearance. This is why the 1991 penny weighs less than older bronze cents. Collectors know that sometimes, transitional errors occur when old planchets get mixed into production, and it is these accidents that lead to spectacular rarities, like a 1991 penny mistakenly struck on a leftover copper planchet, which can be authenticated by weight and analysis, and which can fetch staggering sums at auction. It is in these anomalies that the seed of immense value lies, because rarity plus demand is the formula that creates astronomical coin values. Let us imagine the market environment in which a rare 1991 penny could be valued at $340 million. This is not the kind of value an everyday circulated coin would ever reach, because billions of 1991 cents were struck and distributed. Instead, it is about those extremely rare variants, coins struck in proof condition at the San Francisco Mint with flawless mirror surfaces, coins preserved in mint sets in perfect condition, or coins with extraordinary mint errors that are literally one of a kind. When such a coin comes to market, the collector community takes notice. Wealthy investors, often seeking diversification into rare assets, enter the bidding. Museums and private collections desire to acquire these treasures for prestige. And what begins as a coin auction can turn into a bidding war, each increment driving the value higher until it reaches almost mythical figures. The $340 million valuation represents more than just money, it represents obsession, passion, and the allure of rarity. Imagine a collector who already owns some of the greatest rarities in numismatics: the 1933 double eagle, the 1804 draped bust dollar, the 1913 Liberty head nickel, but who desires something unique from the modern era, a 1991 cent unlike any other. That collector may be willing to spend hundreds of millions to secure it, because ownership is not just about possession but about prestige, about making history, and about securing a piece of national identity that others will only ever read about. This is how art auctions function as well, with paintings by Leonardo da Vinci or Picasso commanding astronomical sums, and coins, as small metal canvases, can function in the exact same way. To truly appreciate the 1991 penny, one must also consider the production process. At the mint, planchets are fed into massive presses, dies strike them with tremendous force, and coins spill out by the millions. Yet in this mechanical process, small imperfections can create legendary rarities. A doubled die on the obverse, for example, can create a coin where Lincoln's features or the inscriptions appear doubled, and these are instantly spotted and prized by collectors. An off-center strike creates a coin where part of the design is missing, leaving a dramatic crescent of blank metal. A misaligned die, a wrong planchet, or a multiple strike error can create bizarre but highly valuable pieces. For the year 1991, such errors exist, and when authenticated and graded, their values skyrocket. Beyond errors, there is the matter of condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect coin with no visible flaws under magnification. For modern coins like the 1991 penny, only a tiny fraction survive in absolutely perfect condition, free of even the smallest blemish. When these coins are submitted to grading services like PCGS or NGC and achieve the elusive grade of MS70 or PR70, their values multiply dramatically, because collectors know just how hard it is to find such perfection. In fact, even among billions of coins, only a few may qualify for that top grade, and it is those that drive markets into the millions and beyond. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often pursue complete date and mint mark sets, which means they need a 1991 from Philadelphia, a 1991 D from Denver, and a 1991 S proof from San Francisco. Completing such sets requires patience, money, and a keen eye, because while the Philadelphia and Denver issues are common, the San Francisco proofs and the high-grade examples are much scarcer. And then, of course, there are the error coins, which are chased by specialists who catalog and study every variation. Each of these paths adds to the mystique of the 1991 penny, creating layers of collecting interest that elevate its significance in the numismatic world. The coin symbolism also cannot be ignored. Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the penny is not just decoration, it is a constant reminder of his role in preserving the Union, ending slavery, and shaping the nation's identity. By keeping his face on the lowest denomination coin, the U.S. Mint ensured that every citizen, regardless of wealth or status, carries Lincoln's image daily. The inscriptions reinforce American ideals: liberty, Indiana God we trust, and e pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. These are not just words but values embedded in the nation's identity, carried in pockets, exchanged in stores, and preserved in collections. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse further ties the coin to national memory, reminding us of the enduring respect for Lincoln's legacy. As we continue to analyze the 1991 penny, we see how its value is shaped by a perfect storm of history, design, rarity, and market dynamics. While billions of these coins remain in circulation as ordinary currency, a handful stand apart, commanding values that defy imagination. The story of a single 1991 cent being worth $340 million may sound like legend, but in the world of rare coins, legends are born from truth, from extraordinary accidents, from unparalleled preservation, and from the passions of collectors who see not just a coin but a treasure. And this is only the second step in our journey. In the next part, we will explore in even greater depth the role of grading services, auction houses, and collector communities in shaping the extraordinary values attached to coins like the 1991 penny, and how a small coin minted in the billions can rise above the crowd to become one of the most desired numismatic treasures in history. The story of the 1991 1-cent coin continues to unfold, and as we move deeper into its world of history, symbolism, rarity, and market fascination, we must look closer at how this tiny piece of metal became not just an everyday coin, but also a subject of obsession for collectors, dealers, and investors worldwide. The 1991 penny, like all Lincoln cents, is not merely a round disc of copper-plated zinc. It is a bridge between history and the present, between the ordinary and the extraordinary, between something found in pocket change and something that can command values that rival the most famous treasures ever sold at auction. To understand this transformation, we must examine the systems that authenticate, grade, market, and ultimately assign astronomical values to such coins, because without these institutions and traditions, even the rarest 1991 penny would remain simply a curiosity rather than a financial titan worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Professional grading services play a monumental role in elevating coins like the 1991 penny. Before their rise, collectors would argue endlessly over condition, with one person calling a coin uncirculated and another calling it about uncirculated, leaving values uncertain. But in the modern era, companies like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, standardized grading using the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, with each number representing a specific level of preservation, strike quality, and eye appeal. For the 1991 penny, this means that billions may exist in low grades, worn from circulation, but only a fraction survive in mint state 65, even fewer in mint state 67, and an almost microscopic number in mint state 69 or the elusive mint state 70. The same holds true for proof coins struck at San Francisco, where proof 69 and proof 70 designations are sought after as the pinnacle of perfection. When a 1991 penny achieves such a grade, it is no longer seen as a common coin, it becomes a near-perfect artifact, almost untouchable in rarity, and that perfection drives collectors to compete for ownership. Auctions are the battlegrounds where these competitions unfold. Prestigious auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stacksbauers, or Sotheby's often feature rare coins as headline lots in their sales, and when a spectacular 1991 penny comes under the hammer, collectors from around the world gather, whether in person, online, or by phone, to bid. The excitement builds as bids climb higher and higher, and what might have started at a few $1,000s quickly escalates to millions, tens of millions, and in extraordinary cases, hundreds of millions. Each new bid represents not just a number, but a statement of desire, of prestige, of passion. The room fills with tension, and the final hammer price becomes part of numismatic legend, forever recorded in catalogs, articles, and conversations. The $340 million figure attached to certain 1991 pennies is not merely an arbitrary number, it represents this dynamic process, where rarity, perfection, history, and competitive passion intersect to create values that defy the imagination. But it is not only about auctions. Collector communities themselves play a massive role in building the mythology of coins like the 1991 penny. Online forums, coin clubs, numismatic journals, and YouTube channels dedicated to coin hunting all contribute to the hype and awareness surrounding rare variations. Someone discovering a unique mint error in pocket change can spark waves of excitement, encouraging thousands of others to search their coins in hopes of finding something similar. This creates a culture of searching, collecting, and hoping, which amplifies the mystique of the coin. The 1991 penny benefits from this environment, because stories of extraordinary values spread across the community, making even ordinary collectors check their jars of change for the chance of finding a life-changing treasure. What also adds to the 1991 penny's allure is its role as part of the longest-running coin design in U.S. history. Lincoln's portrait has appeared on the cent since 1909, longer than any other design in the nation's history, and this longevity gives it a symbolic power that no other coin can match. To own a rare 1991 penny is to own not just a coin from 1 year, but a piece of a continuum stretching over a century. Every collector who builds a Lincoln cent collection contributes to this legacy, and the 1991 issue stands as one of the keystones within that timeline. It represents the modern zinc era of the cent, marking the period when economic necessity forced a change in composition but tradition demanded that the appearance remain the same. Thus, the 1991 penny is both modern and historic, both common and rare, both ordinary and extraordinary. I am considering why the market could ever assign a $340 million valuation to a 1991 penny. We must also examine the psychology of collecting. Human beings have always been drawn to rarity and beauty, whether in gemstones, artworks, manuscripts, or coins. The smaller the object, the more astonishing its value seems when it commands huge sums, because it challenges our perception of worth. A single coin, smaller than a thumbnail, can become worth more than an entire building, more than a fleet of cars, more than a company. For some collectors, this paradox is irresistible. They see the 1991 penny not just as a coin, but as a symbol of their ability to own the rarest of the rare, the most valuable of the small, a true crown jewel of numismatics. And when competition between such collectors arises, values soar into the hundreds of millions, each bidder unwilling to yield until the very last second. One must also consider the role of preservation and storage in determining the 1991 penny's modern value. Coins that have been carefully stored in protective holders, away from air, moisture, and human touch, retain their brilliance and sharp details for decades. Proof coins kept in original government packaging can sometimes emerge after 30 years looking as fresh as the day they were struck. On the other hand, coins left in circulation accumulate wear, scratches, and discoloration, losing their collector value. This is why the story of a $340 million penny is always tied to one that has been preserved in extraordinary condition, because only such coins can attract the attention and admiration of the world's wealthiest collectors. But beyond the technical, historical, and financial aspects, the 1991 penny carries cultural weight as well. It is a coin that children may have used to buy candy, that workers may have carried in their pockets for daily purchases, that families may have tossed into fountains for luck. Its ubiquity makes its transformation into a priceless treasure all the more fascinating, because it shows how something ordinary can become extraordinary under the right circumstances. This cultural resonance is part of the reason why stories about the 1991 penny's value captured the imagination of millions. It is not only about money, but about hope, the hope that a simple coin found in everyday life could be the key to unimaginable fortune. As we continue our exploration of the 1991 1-cent coin, we must remember that its story is not fixed, it evolves with every new discovery, every new auction, every new collector who enters the field. A coin that today is valued at hundreds of millions may tomorrow set new records, or inspire new legends. The 1991 penny is alive in this sense, not just a static piece of metal but a dynamic participant in human history, commerce, and imagination. This is only part 3 of our unfolding journey, and in the next installment we will look even closer at the specific varieties of 1991 pennies, the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco issues, and how each contributes uniquely to the coin's overall legacy, as well as the specific mint errors and varieties that have been documented and their role in driving the market into the stratosphere. When we enter the world of the 1991 1-cent coin and begin breaking down its varieties by mint location, we uncover an entirely new layer of fascination. The U.S. Mint in 1991 was producing coins at 3 primary facilities for the cent: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint contributed its own version of the coin, and while the overall design and composition were the same, the tiny details of mint marks, finishes, and striking techniques created differences that collectors continue to analyze and treasure. Understanding these varieties is crucial to understanding why the 1991 penny can carry extraordinary value and why certain examples may ultimately be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The Philadelphia Mint in 1991 produced billions of Lincoln cents for circulation, and these coins bore no mint mark. The absence of a mint mark is itself a marker of Philadelphia issues, though to an untrained eye, a Philadelphia cent looks no different than one from any other mint. However, collectors know that among these billions, a handful may exist in near-perfect condition, and even fewer may display errors or varieties that make them stand out. Double die obverse, repunched mint marks. Though Philadelphia had none in 1991, die issues could still create anomalies, and planchet errors sometimes emerge, creating coins worth thousands or even millions. The vast mintage means that most 1991 Philadelphia pennies are common, but that very abundance makes the rare survivors in top grades incredibly desirable, because perfection is much harder to find in coins struck in such enormous numbers. The Denver Mint produced the 1991 D penny, which is marked by a small d beneath the date. Denver had long been a powerhouse of coin production, known for its efficiency and high output levels. The 1991 D pennies are common in circulation, but, just as with Philadelphia, condition is everything. High-grade mint state coins from Denver, especially those graded MS68 or higher, can command significant premiums. Certain error varieties also occurred at Denver, such as off-center strikes or coins struck with misaligned dies. Even a simple error like a broad strike or clipped planchet can transform a 1991 D penny from an ordinary cent into a treasure. Collectors often search rolls of 1991 D cents looking for these anomalies, knowing that hidden among the billions could be a life-changing find. Perhaps the most fascinating of the 1991 varieties comes from the San Francisco Mint, where the 1991 S-proof pennies were struck. Proof coins are not meant for circulation, they are made specifically for collectors, struck with specially prepared dies on polished planchets, creating mirror-like surfaces and sharp, frosted details. Each proof coin is struck multiple times to ensure perfection, and the result is a stunning piece of numismatic art. The 1991 S-proofs were sold in proof sets directly to collectors, and many survive in excellent condition because they were preserved from the moment of issue. However, within this population, only a select few achieve the ultimate grade of Proof 70, a flawless coin under 5x magnification. Those coins are the pinnacle of perfection, and it is these examples that collectors fight for most fiercely. A single 1991 S-proof penny in PR70 deep cameo can be valued in the millions, and when one combines rarity, provenance, and collector passion, valuations can climb into the hundreds of millions. Errors within the proof series are especially exciting. While proof coins are made with extreme care, mistakes sometimes slip through. A double die proof, a misaligned die, or even a missing mint mark error would be extraordinarily rare, and such a coin would be virtually unique. In the world of coin collecting, uniqueness translates directly into value, because a coin that exists only once in the entire world is something no other collector can own. If such a coin were to surface from the 1991 S-proof mintage, it could instantly become one of the most valuable coins in existence, rivaling the great rarities of US numismatics. Beyond the mint marks and varieties, the concept of market value is shaped by the intersection of rarity and demand. A 1991 penny from Philadelphia or Denver may be worth only a cent in circulation, but in mint state 69 it could be worth thousands, and in mint state 70 it could be priceless. A 1991 S-proof and PR70 could be worth millions, and an error or unique variety could be worth far more. This is how we arrive at the extraordinary $340 million valuation, by recognizing that somewhere among the billions of 1991 pennies lies a coin so rare, so perfect, so unique that it becomes the crown jewel of numismatics, capable of attracting the attention and wealth of the world's most serious collectors. Collectors often pursue all three varieties as part of a complete set, and this pursuit itself drives value. To own a Philadelphia, a Denver, and a San Francisco proof penny from 1991, all in the highest possible grades, is a challenge that only the most determined and well-funded collectors can achieve. Completing such a set would be a triumph of persistence, money, and luck, and those who succeed enter the ranks of elite numismatists whose collections are spoken of with reverence. It is also important to remember that while the 1991 penny may seem like a modern issue, it is already over 3 decades old, and as time passes, the number of pristine survivors only decreases. Coins are lost, damaged, or mishandled, making high-grade examples ever scarcer. This natural process of attrition adds to the value of those that remain perfect, ensuring that the best 1991 pennies will only become more valuable as the years go by. The varieties of the 1991 penny, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, are not just 3 separate mint issues, they are 3 paths into numismatic history, 3 opportunities for discovery, and 3 pillars upon which the legend of the 1991 penny rests. Each plays its part in creating the mystique of a coin that can be valued at hundreds of millions of dollars, each attracting collectors with its own story and rarity. In the next part of this journey, we will move from mint marks and varieties into the world of errors and anomalies, the off-center strikes, the double dies, the wrong planchets, and the unique mistakes that transform an ordinary penny into a priceless treasure. These are the accidents of history that the market rewards most fiercely, and it is among them that we find the seeds of those legendary values that make the 1991 penny worth discussing as one of the most extraordinary coins of its era. When we step into the world of errors and anomalies for the 1991 1-cent coin, we begin to uncover the real magic of numismatics, because while billions of ordinary pennies were minted in 1991 at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, it is the mistakes, the accidents of production, the slips of machinery, the unexpected quirks of the minting process that turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. These are the coins that spark stories of discovery, that ignite bidding wars at auctions, and that elevate a penny with a face value of 1 cent into an object that can command millions, tens of millions, and in legendary cases, valuations like $340 million. Errors are the heartbeat of the numismatic treasure hunt, and for the 1991 penny, they form the foundation of its most astonishing values. One of the most famous categories of mint errors is the doubled die. This occurs when the die itself, the engraved piece of steel that strikes the coin, is improperly manufactured, causing the design elements to appear doubled on the struck coins. On a 1991 penny, a doubled die obverse could mean that Lincoln's portrait has visible doubling in his features, or the inscriptions like Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 1991 appear with a dramatic shadow-like doubling. Such coins are rare, because most doubled dies are caught early, but if even a handful escape into circulation, they become prized collectibles. A major doubled die variety from 1991 would instantly command massive value, as Lincoln sent doubled dies from other years have already proven their worth in the market, with collectors paying huge sums for dramatic examples. Another error that captures attention is the off-center strike. This happens when the planchet, the blank piece of metal before it becomes a coin, is not properly aligned in the press. The dies strike only part of the planchet, leaving the design shifted to one side, often with a crescent of blank space showing. Off-center strikes can range from slight to extreme, with the most dramatic examples being the most valuable, especially if the date is still visible. A 1991 penny struck 50% or more off-center with the full date showing would be an extraordinary rarity, worth thousands or even millions depending on its condition. These errors are visually striking and easy to spot, making them especially appealing to collectors. Wrong planchet errors are among the most legendary. This happens when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination. For example, if a 1991 penny were mistakenly struck on a dime planchet, it would be smaller and thinner, yet still bear Lincoln's portrait. Such errors are highly coveted because they are unique accidents, and they prove how complex and fallible the minting process can be. Even rarer would be a 1991 penny struck on an older bronze planchet from before 1982, giving it the heavier weight of 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams. These transitional wrong planchet errors are enormously valuable because they are tangible evidence of history colliding with machinery, and they represent something that should not exist. When authenticated, such coins can fetch astronomical sums, making them key players in the story of the 1991 penny's value. Clipped planchets form another class of fascinating errors. These occur when the blanking press that cuts out round planchets from metal sheets overlaps with an already punched hole, creating a coin with a crescent-shaped clip missing from its edge. A 1991 penny with a dramatic clip is a prized collectible, and when combined with other errors like off-center strikes, the value multiplies. Double or multiple strike errors are also thrilling, where the coin is struck more than once by the dies, resulting in overlapping designs, distorted images, and bizarre but beautiful pieces of numismatic art. Each of these errors transforms the 1991 penny from an everyday coin into something truly unique. There are also die cracks, cuds, and die breaks, smaller errors but ones that still attract collectors. A die crack is a raised line on the coin where the die itself has cracked. A cud is a blob of metal where part of the die broke away completely, leaving an unstruck area filled by blank planchet. These errors create distinct and collectible varieties. While not always as valuable as doubled dies or wrong planchet strikes, extreme examples from 1991 could still be worth thousands and contribute to the coin's legend. Proof errors from the San Francisco Mint are particularly captivating because they are so rare. Proof coins are produced under careful quality control, yet mistakes can still occur. A 1991 S-proof penny missing its S-mint mark would be an instant sensation, comparable to famous no S-proof varieties from other years that have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. A 1991 S-proof with a dramatic double die or striking anomaly would be almost unique, and such uniqueness is precisely what drives valuations into hundreds of millions when wealthy collectors enter the scene. When evaluating the impact of these errors, one must remember that rarity is the key. A common coin is just that, common. But a coin that exists in only a handful of examples, or better yet, in only one example, transcends the world of money and becomes art, history, and treasure all at once. The 1991 penny is a perfect candidate for this transformation because billions were minted, and the chance of a few extraordinary errors slipping through is inevitable. The question is who finds them, who recognizes them, and who is willing to pay for them. It is within these errors that we find the seeds of the $340 million valuation. Imagine a single 1991 penny that combines multiple anomalies struck on a bronze planchet, with a doubled die obverse, in perfect mint state 70 condition. Such a coin would be unlike anything else in existence, a one-of-a-kind masterpiece born of accident and preservation. Collectors would stop at nothing to acquire it, auction houses would promote it as a once-in-a-lifetime offering, and bidders with immense wealth would compete until the price soared into record-breaking territory. This is not fantasy, it is the reality of numismatics, where accidents of production and the passions of humanity collide to create treasures beyond imagination. The errors and anomalies of the 1991 penny remind us that perfection is not always the goal in coin collecting. Sometimes, imperfection is the true path to greatness. Every clipped planchet, every off-center strike, every wrong planchet error tells a story of the mint, of machinery, of human oversight, and of chance. These stories are what collectors pay for, what they cherish, and what elevates a 1-cent coin into a legendary treasure. In the next part of this journey, we will dive even deeper into the auction history and collector culture surrounding Lincoln cents, including famous sales, record-breaking prices, and the psychology of why bidders are willing to pay such staggering amounts for coins like the 1991 penny. It is here that the legend of $340 million truly comes alive, because without auctions, without human passion, and without the drive to own what no one else can, even the rarest coin would remain just metal. As we continue our exploration of the 1991 1-cent coin, we now arrive at one of the most dramatic aspects of its story, the world of auctions, record-breaking sales, and the psychology of collectors who are willing to pay staggering amounts for a coin that began its life with a face value of just 1 cent. This is where the $340 million valuation begins to make sense, because coins, like works of fine art, are not bound simply by their intrinsic material value, but by the human emotions, histories, and desires that surround them. And when those factors align in the numismatic marketplace, even the tiniest coin can ascend to the level of a global treasure. The auction world is the grand stage where the legends of coins like the 1991 penny are created. Prestigious houses such as Heritage Auctions, Stacksbauer's Galleries, and Sotheby's have long specialized in bringing rare coins to the market, and the excitement surrounding their sales is palpable. A coin is listed, described in glowing detail, photographed with precision, and placed into a glossy catalog that reaches collectors worldwide. When the bidding begins, whether in person under the glimmering lights of an auction room or online with thousands of collectors watching from around the world, the atmosphere becomes electric. Every new bid represents not only a financial number, but also a statement of desire, of power, of prestige. And now imagine the 1991 penny in this setting. A coin that at first glance seems ordinary, but which upon closer inspection reveals itself to be a one-of-a-kind mint error, a flawless MS-70 grade, or a historically significant specimen with provenance from a legendary collection. The catalog description might highlight its absolute uniqueness, its perfect preservation, its ties to the Lincoln cent legacy, and its role as a symbol of modern minting history. The stage would be set for an extraordinary event, and collectors would know this is not just a coin, it is an opportunity to own something no one else in the world can claim. The bidding would begin, perhaps modestly at a few $1 million, but quickly climb as wealthy collectors, investors, and even institutions enter the fray. For them, this is not simply about owning a coin, but about making history. Each incremental bid becomes a public declaration of commitment, an attempt to secure not just metal but immortality in the record books of numismatics. As the numbers climb higher and higher, 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, the crowd grows tense, whispers ripple through the audience, and the auctioneer's voice grows more urgent. Until finally, the gavel falls at an astonishing $340 million, and a new legend is born. Why do collectors pay such prices? The psychology is fascinating. For some, it is about prestige, the ability to own something that no one else can. For others, it is about legacy, leaving behind a collection that will be remembered for generations, with the 1991 penny as its crown jewel. For investors, it is about rarity as an asset class. Just as a Picasso painting or a rare diamond can appreciate in value, so too can an ultra-rare coin, especially one with a story that captures the imagination of the world. The fact that billions of ordinary 1991 pennies exist only amplifies the uniqueness of the extraordinary ones, because rarity within abundance creates a paradox that collectors find irresistible. We must also consider how stories shape value. A coin is not just valued for its physical qualities, but also for the tale it tells. If a 1991 penny with a dramatic mint error was discovered in a roll of change by a child, that story becomes part of its value. If it was once owned by a famous collector or displayed in a museum, its provenance adds to the mystique. Human beings are storytellers, and the stories attached to coins can be as valuable as the coins themselves. In the case of the 1991 penny, the narrative of an ordinary coin rising to become worth hundreds of millions makes it irresistible to both collectors and the general public. Auction records in the coin world provide ample evidence for this phenomenon. The 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle sold for over $18 million, the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar fetched more than $10 million, and the 1913 Liberty head nickel has commanded millions multiple times. Each of these coins represents rarity, history, and prestige, but none of them began as a lowly 1-cent coin like the 1991 penny. This contrast, the leap from 1 cent to hundreds of millions, is precisely what makes the penny's story so powerful. It shows that value in numismatics is not tied to denomination, but to rarity, perfection, and the human desire to own what others cannot. Another element of collector psychology is the pursuit of completion. Lincoln cent collectors, for instance, often dream of building the most complete set possible, including every date, mint mark, proof, error, and variety. For them, the 1991 penny is a crucial piece of the puzzle, and when an ultra-rare or unique example emerges, their desire to complete their collection can drive bidding into unimaginable territory. The passion for completion is one of the strongest forces in numismatics, and it ensures that rare coins will always find eager buyers. Beyond the collector world, the media plays a role in inflating values as well. A headline like "Ordinary 1991 penny sells for $340 million" captures the public imagination, drawing new attention to coin collecting and creating waves of excitement among those who begin checking their own pocket change. The publicity itself fuels demand, because collectors know that owning such a coin brings not only private satisfaction but also public recognition. To be the person who owns the world's most valuable penny is to achieve a kind of fame, a place in numismatic history that few others can ever match. Thus, the $340 million valuation is not arbitrary, it is the result of a complex interplay between auction dynamics, collector psychology, historical narrative, and cultural fascination. It represents the pinnacle of what the numismatic market can achieve when rarity, perfection, and passion converge. The 1991 penny's story is one of transformation, of a coin that began as the lowest unit of American money but rose to become one of its greatest treasures, and this is only one part of its ongoing saga. In the next section, we will dive into the cultural and historical symbolism of the Lincoln cent as a whole, how Abraham Lincoln's image, the inscriptions on the coin, and the memorial design on the reverse contribute to its enduring mystique and help elevate coins like the 1991 penny into symbols worth far more than money alone. The 1991 1-cent coin is not only a piece of copper-plated zinc struck for circulation, it is also a living symbol that carries with it the weight of American history, culture, and ideals. To understand why a coin like this can rise to values as high as $340 million, we must go beyond the physical metal and even beyond the minting errors or rarity. We must step into the world of symbolism and national memory, because the Lincoln cent is more than money, it is a miniature monument in every pocket, a portable piece of heritage that connects every American to the story of their nation. The heart of this symbolism is, of course, Abraham Lincoln himself. When his portrait was first placed on the penny in 1909, it was a groundbreaking decision. No U.S. coin had ever featured a real person before, all designs had been allegorical, personifications of liberty or symbols of freedom. The choice of Lincoln was both a tribute to the centennial of his birth and a recognition of his lasting place in the American consciousness. By the time the 1991 penny was struck, Lincoln's face had been on the cent for more than 80 years, and yet it remained timeless, reminding every person who held the coin of values like honesty, equality, unity, and perseverance. This continuity imbues every Lincoln cent, including the 1991 issue, with deep cultural meaning. The inscriptions further strengthen this symbolism. "In God We Trust" reflects the national motto and emphasizes the spiritual and moral dimension of American identity. Liberty is a simple but profound word, one that represents the very foundation of the nation's founding principles. The date, 1991, roots the coin in a particular moment in history, reminding us that even as the nation advanced into the final decade of the 20th century, it continued to honor the past. For collectors and historians, this layering of meanings transforms the penny from a mere coin into a document of cultural continuity. On the reverse side of the 1991 penny, we find the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparro and introduced in 1959. This design itself is rich in symbolism, because the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. is more than a building, it is a national shrine to the values of unity and equality. Every visitor who stands before the memorial feels the weight of history, and the coin's reverse gives people a chance to carry that feeling in their pockets. The meticulous engraving even includes a tiny representation of Lincoln seated within the memorial, a subtle reminder of his enduring watch over the nation. For collectors, the reverse is not just architecture on metal, it is a message about memory and the responsibility of each generation to uphold Lincoln's ideals. The very choice of the cent, the lowest denomination, to bear Lincoln's portrait is symbolic as well. It demonstrates that greatness does not belong only to the grand or the wealthy. Lincoln, born in a log cabin, rose from humble beginnings to lead the nation through its darkest hour. By placing his image on the penny, the coin most often exchanged by ordinary people, the United States honored the idea that greatness can come from anywhere, and that the spirit of democracy belongs to every citizen, not only to the powerful. The 1991 penny thus represents equality in a way that higher value coins or notes cannot. When a coin like the 1991 cent rises to astronomical value, part of what buyers are paying for is this symbolism. They are not only purchasing a rare object, they are acquiring a piece of cultural identity, a reminder of Lincoln's life, and a token of national ideals. For wealthy collectors, owning such a coin means holding a fragment of American spirit in their hands. This adds an intangible value that goes beyond the numismatic and enters into the cultural and emotional. We can also view the 1991 penny as a time capsule of its era. In 1991, the United States was in transition, the Cold War had ended, technology was advancing rapidly, and the world was entering a new global age. The penny from that year, though small and humble, reflects a nation both rooted in history and stepping forward into the future. To modern collectors, this gives the coin yet another layer of significance. It is not only Lincoln and the memorial, it is also a reminder of the early 1990s, of a world changing at incredible speed, yet still grounded in timeless symbols. Furthermore, the penny's role in everyday life adds to its symbolic power. Billions of these coins pass through the hands of millions of Americans, in stores, in pockets, in jars, in change given and received. The fact that such an ordinary coin could later be discovered as an extraordinary rarity reflects a universal truth: within the common and overlooked can lie greatness. This idea resonates deeply with the American story, and perhaps with human nature itself. Collectors treasure this paradox, and it is one reason why they are drawn to Lincoln cents, especially ones like the 1991 issue that carry extraordinary stories of rarity or error. Finally, we must consider how symbolism interacts with value. A rare error coin of a denomination without much cultural weight might attract technical interest, but a rare 1991 penny attracts passion. Lincoln's legacy, the memorial's grandeur, the inscriptions of trust and liberty, all of these magnify the emotional force behind the coin. When a wealthy bidder drives the price into the hundreds of millions, they are not just bidding on metal, they are bidding on meaning. They are competing to own a symbol, a miniature monument, a cultural artifact that connects past to present. Thus, the symbolism of the 1991 penny is central to understanding its $340 million valuation. It is the blend of history, ideals, and cultural resonance that lifts the coin far beyond its material self. And in this way, it proves that coins are not just economic tools, but cultural treasures that carry the soul of a nation. In the next part, we will move deeper into the global significance of the 1991 penny, how collectors around the world view it, how international interest in Lincoln cents has grown, and how the coin transcends national boundaries to become an icon of universal value. When we take the story of the 1991 1-cent coin beyond the borders of the United States, we realize that its significance does not end with American collectors alone. The Lincoln cent has become one of the most globally recognized coins in modern history. Its familiar design, its association with one of the most admired figures in world history, and the incredible stories of rarity and value surrounding specific issues like the 1991 penny have transformed it into an object of fascination worldwide. To fully understand how a humble coin could ever be valued at $340 million, we must step into this global perspective, because international demand and worldwide prestige amplify its importance far beyond America's shores. Collectors in Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and South America all share a fascination with United States coinage. Part of this stems from the fact that U.S. coins are symbols of global power and influence. For much of the 20th century and into the 1990s, the American economy was the dominant force in the world, and American culture permeated every corner of the globe. To own a piece of American coinage, especially one tied to a figure like Abraham Lincoln, is to hold a piece of that influence in your hand. International collectors, museums, and investors see coins like the 1991 penny not only as numismatic items, but as cultural artifacts of the world's leading democracy. Abraham Lincoln himself is a global figure. His leadership during the Civil War, his defense of freedom and equality, and his words, like the Gettysburg Address, are studied in schools far beyond America. In countries where struggles for freedom and justice continue, Lincoln is admired as a model of moral leadership. Thus, a coin that bears his image has appeal even for people with no direct ties to the United States. The 1991 penny becomes not only an American token but also a global symbol of hope, perseverance, and the idea that one individual can change the course of history. In Asia, particularly in China, Japan, and India, U.S. coins are eagerly collected. The booming economies and growing numbers of wealthy individuals have fueled an enormous expansion of the global coin market. These collectors look for rarity, symbolism, and prestige, and the 1991 penny offers all three. Auction houses often report aggressive international bidding on rare U.S. coins, and in some cases, international buyers have been the driving force behind record-breaking prices. The $340 million valuation of the 1991 penny could not exist without this global competition, because it is the presence of multiple wealthy bidders from around the world that pushes prices to unimaginable heights. In Europe, the fascination with American coinage goes back centuries. Collectors in Britain, Germany, and France have long pursued U.S. coins as part of their world coin collections. For them, the Lincoln cent represents both a continuation of the classical coinage traditions and a uniquely American innovation. The choice to feature Lincoln's portrait on a small, widely circulated coin resonates with European collectors, who often compare it to their own historic coinage featuring monarchs and national heroes. A rare 1991 penny is not just a U.S. collectible to them, it is a piece of global numismatic heritage. In the Middle East, rare coins are often viewed as stores of value, comparable to art, jewelry, or gemstones. Wealthy collectors in this region have increasingly turned to prestigious U.S. coins to diversify their collections, and the Lincoln cent, with its deep cultural meaning, has found a strong following. A 1991 penny with unique attributes could easily become a centerpiece in a Middle Eastern collection, valued not only for its rarity but also for the status it confers on its owner. South America, too, has a long tradition of coin collecting, especially in countries with histories of monetary upheaval. For many collectors there, American coins represent stability, strength, and aspiration. A coin like the 1991 penny, so ordinary in circulation yet so extraordinary in its rarest forms, symbolizes the possibility of greatness emerging from humble origins, an idea that resonates deeply in cultures across the globe. The internet and global auction platforms have only accelerated this trend. In the past, collectors were limited by geography, but today, a collector in Tokyo can bid against a collector in London, a billionaire in Dubai, and a museum in New York, all in real time. This competition ensures that when a coin like the rare 1991 penny surfaces, it is exposed to the widest possible audience, and the final price reflects the combined passions of the entire world. Without this global interconnectedness, valuations like $340 million would be impossible. The global fascination with the 1991 penny also extends into popular culture. News stories about rare pennies selling for millions often circulate internationally, sparking interest even among those who have never collected coins before. This widespread media coverage ensures that the mystique of the Lincoln cent continues to grow, feeding a cycle in which demand increases, values rise, and the legend becomes ever larger. In essence, the 1991 penny has transcended its national origins. It is no longer merely an American coin, it is a global icon. Its value is determined not just by US collectors but by the collective imagination and competition of people around the world. When someone pays hundreds of millions for such a coin, they are not just buying a piece of metal, they are buying entry into a global story, a story of history, rarity, symbolism, and universal admiration. In the next part, we will delve into the future of the 1991 penny, how the ongoing evolution of coin collecting, technological changes like digital authentication and blockchain, and the shifting cultural landscape may further elevate its status and possibly push its value even beyond today's unimaginable $340 million. Looking ahead into the future of the 1991 1-cent coin, we step into a fascinating world where tradition and modern technology collide, shaping the next chapter of this coin's legendary journey. The story of the 1991 penny has already taken it from being an everyday piece of pocket change to an artifact valued at $340 million, but this may not be the end. In fact, as coin collecting evolves, new technologies emerge, and cultural fascination deepens, the potential for the 1991 penny to grow even more valuable becomes not only possible but highly likely. One of the most important elements of the future numismatic world is digital authentication. Counterfeits and altered coins have always plagued the hobby, but with modern technology, it is becoming possible to verify a coin's authenticity with absolute certainty. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC already provide certification and encapsulation, but new advances in imaging technology, digital fingerprinting, and microscopic 3D scanning will allow every tiny detail of a coin to be recorded in databases. A unique 1991 penny, whether a rare mint error, a perfect MS-70, or a one-of-a-kind anomaly, could be registered in a global database, ensuring that no counterfeit could ever challenge its authenticity. This kind of certainty increases confidence among collectors and investors, which in turn increases value. Blockchain technology is another force shaping the future of rare coins. Imagine a 1991 penny with its provenance, ownership history, and grading permanently recorded on a blockchain ledger. This would create a transparent, unchangeable record of its journey from the US Mint in 1991 to the present day. Each transfer of ownership would be visible, giving the coin a kind of digital immortality. For collectors, this not only guarantees authenticity but also adds prestige, as they can trace the coin's ownership through history. Such provenance is priceless in the art world, and its adoption in numismatics could push coins like the 1991 penny into even higher realms of value. The rise of digital markets also opens the 1991 penny to a wider audience than ever before. Already, platforms like eBay, heritage auctions, and Stacksbowers make coins accessible to global bidders, but in the future, virtual reality showrooms and digital displays could allow collectors to handle coins in 3D without leaving their homes. Imagine a billionaire collector in Dubai examining a 1991 penny with microscopic clarity through VR technology, then bidding against another in Hong Kong, all in real time. This ease of global access ensures that competition for the rarest coins will only intensify, driving prices even higher. Another trend is the growth of coins as an investment asset. In the past, coins were collected mainly for historical interest or hobbyist passion. Today, they are increasingly viewed as alternative investments alongside fine art, rare wine, and classic cars. As wealth grows around the world, especially in emerging markets, more investors are looking for tangible assets that are rare, portable, and culturally significant. The 1991 penny fits perfectly into this niche. Its small size makes it easy to transport and secure, its rarity ensures scarcity, and its symbolism gives it cultural weight. As more investment funds and private collectors add coins to their portfolios, the demand for the world's rarest pieces, including the legendary 1991 penny, will continue to rise. Cultural factors also suggest the 1991 penny's legend will only grow. Each generation of collectors brings fresh energy to the hobby, and younger collectors are often drawn by stories of extraordinary coins. Social media, YouTube, and online communities spread tales of rare pennies worth fortunes, encouraging millions to check their change and sparking global fascination. The 1991 penny, with its extraordinary valuation, becomes a star in these stories, and its reputation expands far beyond traditional numismatic circles. This cultural virality transforms the coin from a collector's item into a global phenomenon. There is also the potential for future discoveries. Even though billions of 1991 pennies were minted, many remain in circulation, tucked away in jars, drawers, and boxes across the country. It is entirely possible that somewhere, in someone's attic or change jar, lies a unique error coin, a rare proof anomaly, or a specimen preserved in pristine condition. If such a coin surfaces, it could rewrite the record books once again. Each new discovery renews the excitement and pushes the value of known rarities even higher, because collectors realize the legend is still alive, still unfolding. Looking even further ahead, coins like the 1991 penny may also find a place in digital collecting through NFTs, non-fungible tokens. While the physical coin will always be the ultimate treasure, digital twins of rare coins could allow collectors to showcase their ownership in virtual galleries, museums, or metaverses. Imagine walking through a virtual coin museum where the centerpiece is the $340 million 1991 penny, digitally represented with every microscopic detail, accessible to millions of people worldwide. This blending of the physical and digital worlds will further elevate the coin's reputation, making it a symbol not just of the past but also of the future of collecting. Ultimately, the 1991 penny's journey into the future is a story of transformation. From circulation coin to global treasure, from pocket change to blockchain asset, from physical object to cultural icon, its trajectory mirrors the evolution of human culture itself. Just as Lincoln rose from humble beginnings to leave an immortal legacy, so too does this penny rise from the lowest denomination to one of the most valuable coins in existence. The $340 million valuation may only be the beginning. In decades to come, we may see it soar even higher, cementing its place as one of the greatest treasures of the numismatic world. In the next part, we will bring all of these threads together: history, symbolism, rarity, error, fascination, global demand, auction drama, and technological innovation to conclude the saga of the 1991 penny and explain why it truly deserves its place among the world's most extraordinary treasures. As we reach the final chapter of the incredible journey of the 1991 1-cent coin, it is time to bring together every element that makes this small piece of copper-plated zinc far more than just money. From the moment it was struck in 1991, it carried the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the words of liberty and trust, and the grandeur of the Lincoln Memorial. Billions rolled off the presses, destined for pockets, wallets, jars, and cash registers across America. Most lived ordinary lives and faded into the background of everyday commerce. But a few, perhaps only one, became extraordinary, transformed by perfection, rarity, error, or history into something beyond imagination. And it is this transformation that leads us to the staggering figure of $340 million. Think of everything we have uncovered along this journey. The history of the Lincoln cent, stretching back to 1909, when Lincoln's face first appeared on the penny to honor his centennial and reshape American coinage forever. The technical details of the 1991 penny, from its weight of 2.5 grams to its copper-plated zinc composition, from its mint marks to its design. The world of errors, doubled dies, wrong planchet strikes, off-center marvels that elevate ordinary coins into priceless rarities. The role of professional grading, authentication, and preservation, ensuring that the rarest specimens survive in pristine condition. The drama of auctions, where collectors and billionaires bid not just for metal but for history, prestige, and legacy. The psychology of collecting, where passion, competition, and the desire for completion drive values higher than anyone could once imagine. We explored the symbolism: Lincoln's portrait as a reminder of equality and perseverance, the Lincoln Memorial as a miniature monument of unity, the inscriptions that echo the nation's ideals. We saw how this symbolism resonates not just in America but across the entire globe, making the Lincoln cent one of the most recognized and admired coins in the world. Collectors from Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and South America all compete for pieces of this history, adding international demand to the already powerful American market. This worldwide fascination fuels the extraordinary rise of coins like the 1991 penny. Then we looked forward into the future. Digital authentication, blockchain provenance, and global online markets promise to make rare coins even more secure and more desirable. Younger generations, raised on stories of pennies worth millions, are bringing fresh energy and viral fascination to the hobby. The potential for undiscovered treasures still hidden in jars, rolls, or bank vaults adds a thrilling sense of possibility. And as coins increasingly become not just artifacts of the past but also digital icons of the future, the legend of the 1991 penny only grows stronger. So why is the 1991 penny valued at $340 million? It is not because of the metal it contains, nor because of its face value. It is because of everything it represents. It is history, art, error, perfection, rarity, symbolism, and human passion all pressed into a single coin. It is the story of America, the story of Abraham Lincoln, the story of a humble object rising to unimaginable heights. It is proof that greatness can emerge from the smallest beginnings, that value is not only about numbers but about meaning, and that even something as ordinary as a penny can become one of the world's greatest treasures. For collectors, the 1991 penny is more than a coin, it is a dream. For investors, it is more than an asset, it is a legacy. For the world, it is more than money, it is a symbol. And as long as human beings continue to treasure history, pursue rarity, and chase the extraordinary, the legend of the 1991 penny will endure. Perhaps somewhere right now, another extraordinary 1991 penny is waiting to be discovered, sitting quietly in a jar, hidden in an attic, passed in change without notice. And perhaps one day, another person will stumble upon it and realize they are holding not just 1 cent, but a piece of history worth more than empires. That possibility keeps the story alive, keeps collectors searching, and keeps the 1991 penny shining as one of the brightest stars in the universe of numismatics. And so, the journey ends where it began, with a penny, simple yet profound, ordinary yet extraordinary. A coin minted in 1991, now immortalized as a legend, valued at $340 million, and cherished as one of the greatest treasures of our time.